do want to do is I want to thank you all. You really have been the national voice for us. You've given us the opportunity to get many, many tips. And I do appreciate everything you've done. And we'll continue to look forward to working with you in the future on this. So I'd like to thank you for that and thank you for your time.
Okay. All right, there you have it. We have the press conference for the police for taking a victory lap, which they're certainly entitled to do. They have made their arrest, and the chief is very confident that Bryan Kohberger is their man, responsible for the quadruple homicide there in Moscow, Idaho. Basically, the police chief gave us a recap. Frankly, Bill Thompson, the prosecutor on the case, I don't know, he seems like a pretty trustworthy guy. I mean, if that guy was standing in front of you, you'd probably say, I could trust this guy. And he looks so like I've seen him somewhere before. Where have I seen this guy before? Oh, I don't know. Did he wear a big red suit? I mean, he looks like a guy you could just trust, right? He looks like freaking Kris Kringle. He's a trustworthy guy. I bet juries love him. And he gave, some good information. Obviously, Mr. Kohberger is in Pennsylvania. He had an initial appearance today. He goes back Tuesday because of the long holiday weekend, where he'll come back for an advisement as to whether he's going to waive extradition from Pennsylvania. Two options there. He can either waive extradition, say, fine, take me back. I'm the guy that you think, not admitting any crime, but that he'd be say, I'm the Bryan Kohberger you think you're looking for. Let's go back and get this resolved. One way or the other, saying I'm not responsible or what have you. Or he can fight extradition, say, I'm not going back, make me. Then the state then has to start the extradition process whereby they get a governor's warrant. And all that means it takes a little more time. And it's been a while since I've had a governor's warrant case, but basically the governor of Idaho sends a big fancy, and I mean, still, it's still kind of impressive, kind of a big fancy proclamation on really nice paper with a nice little seal, a little wax down there at the bottom with the governor's signature, verifying that's the governor saying, we want this Bryan Kohberger guy. They send it then to the governor of Pennsylvania. The governor of Pennsylvania say, what a big fancy letter that we have received in this nice parchment paper. And it's got maybe a ribbon and a bow and some seal. And like, hey, we don't want this Kohberger guy. Looks like he's done some bad things. Send him back to Idaho. It just delays the process. And he's not going to get to find out what's in the affidavit until he gets back to Idaho. That is not uncommon. Obviously, there's going to be some information that's going to be made available to him as it relates to the proceedings in Pennsylvania. The judge just can't say, I'm going to hold this guy. There has to be some sort of warrant affidavit for arrest out there. So Mr. Kohberger and his attorneys out there should be able to look at that. He apparently has the public defender who will advise him on basically those options and say, man, you're just delaying the inevitable. If you're, whether you did it or didn't do it, you might as well go waive extradition and get the whole thing started, get the process rolling. Then when he arrives at some point, Mr. Kohberger arrives back in the state of Idaho. My guess is they will charter a plane. They're not going to use the transports that they do for the lowly criminals, where they take a little bus, literally going from state to state. It could take weeks or if not months to get somebody to that or a new location. My guess is they'll probably charter a flight and get Mr. Kohberger back there to the appropriate county there in Idaho. At that point, he'll then appear before the court. The warrant will be unsealed. Both the prosecutor and the police chief stated that will provide the information as to why they believe they have the correct guy. But they're limited by the rules of ethical conduct for attorneys that they can't release information basically before that. It has to come through the court file. I get that, but I don't think they could have. I don't think they're going to do anything unethical if they said, we got our guy. There's reports that there's DNA. We've got DNA. We're 99.999, or we're 1 in 676 quadrillion % positive that this is the same guy, right? that would be, I don't think that would be anything unethical. So they all went through that. Mr. Koberger is a graduate student. Obviously has no bond. He'll have a no bond hold when he gets back. The court record, and how many times have I stressed this on our show? The official word is the court record. Just like the other day when we were talking about Lori Vallow, there's reports, oh, but he's gonna request a continuance. Okay, but really, why? It's gonna have to be better reason than judge. I'm just really busy, right? And then I pointed out, you got to read the documents. And in a little footnote, he says the court said, hey, it's speculative that you're going to have co-counsel. And he says, and that request has been made. Of course, we don't have access to it because the judge seals everything in that particular case. I hope the judge in this particular case does not seal everything like the Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell matters do there in Idaho. And hopefully the judge will, say, hey, this is the way we're going to do it. And if it's in the court record, we're going to find out about it, which is the way it should be. And it is in nearly every case, unless, of course, somebody gets offended by that in one way or the other.